was.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Practicing a little.
One of my favorite ways to summarize what the message has done in my life is made me available.
Yes.
To this.
Yeah.
To the Mockingbird.
Yeah.
It's like a psychedelic state, but it's like even more real and present.
Yeah.
It's HD, all 5 and 6 senses.
Yeah.
Here and now.
Yeah. It's an upgrade for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. It's an upgrade. Yeah. You were sent to the Apple factory and they fucking upgraded you. You're refurbished.
Yeah.
iPaul 11. Takes better pictures.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Audio's good.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I think that's a pretty good place to end. So today we're dream talking with one of my favorite people in the world, the original dream talker, Paul Hedderman. My teacher, my guru, my mentor, and my friend. And it's pretty crazy for me to say that and mean that. But he is those things to me. And I think it comes through in this conversation, in this dream talking, in this podcast that we do together. I had sort of set out with the idea of doing just a summary of what he calls the message, which is sort of this message that he translates or channels that comes from some other place, which might sound a little woo-woo, but it's no different than, jazz or anything else, right? It just improvises and comes through somebody, but instead of musical notes, with Paul, it's the spoken word. And it centers around a topic that is generally referred to as non-duality. And he has some 12-step recovery sprinkled in there as well. And I had set out to sort of give a basics of his message, and there's no containing the message. It comes through the way that it wants to come through, and it came through, I think, in a really beautiful way. And I think even cooler than that is you get to hear two friends talking about this message and what it's done for him in his life and what it's done for me in the past couple of years. It's completely transformed and transformed my life into something I never could have imagined. And I think that comes through in our conversation together in his beautiful backyard with the beautiful energy and the birds singing and the wind blowing. And I hope you get a little sense of what it feels like to hang out with Paul in his backyard for an hour or so. So I hope you enjoy. If you do, like the video and subscribe. I'm supposed to start saying that. I feel like such a YouTuber. All right. I love you guys. Enjoy. All right, let's give it a shot. So I was thinking on the way over about I've interacted with the message through a couple different ways. Live, which is my favorite by far, and then through YouTube, and then live YouTube, watching you do stuff live, and then Zoom. And one of the things I like about the YouTube videos is they always start in the middle. There's never like because it was always, you just sort of would talk, and then Mike would just sort of hit record whenever.
Yeah.
And as a listener, you feel like you sort of just got put into the middle of the talk. It doesn't have that, like, as we were joking, that sort of action, ready, go feel to it. And there's something cool about that, something intimate about, like, it doesn't feel like a performance like a lot of shit on YouTube does.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you jump on the moving train.
Exactly, yeah. Because that speaks to the verbing kind of quality of the message.
in a really cool
Well,
way.
we
So,
never have like a formal beginning point,
yeah.
especially back then. Yeah, so it would be. It's just that what ignites the or stimulates the message is people and interest.
Yeah.
So then it pulls it out, and then it goes off, and then you're on a little. You're like a vehicle, but it's not your gas. Yeah, but yeah. So something gasses you, and you do it, and then it's done, and really, basically, nothing happened
Yeah.
in the 40 minutes or 50 minutes, which is it's a nice phenomenon in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because of my, observing what happened, because obviously from the get-go I wasn't doing it, but I was observing something being done.
Mm.
And so you learn another way, you know. You don't start from thinking I'm the one that's doing it. You learn from I'm not the one doing it, then you learn a lot more in a way about what's happening. So I observed over time, obviously, because finding myself in a lot of different conditions, myself, Paul, physically, emotionally, circumstantially, a lot of different uh, conditions on nights I was sharing, and I realized quickly that that which was sharing didn't need me to be in any certain condition. It was just if it was there was something, a possibility in the room, it would just go. Yeah, and so more and more I realize I have nothing to do with it, which allows you to keep showing up. Because if it was you, you would find or have a lot of reasons not to show up.
Yeah.
So that's why I've gone to the most Paul Hedderman talks, because I've never been there.
Yeah.
Really, literally.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the vehicle has a say, and it has an opinion about what's happening. And let's say if I think it's inappropriate where I am because people brought me somewhere to speak and it wasn't the right time, but that's just an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing doesn't seem to hold it, and it just does what it does, and basically it has no interest or an end game or outcome. It doesn't seem to. It just wants to express.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that the message, when I hear it from you, there's the ingredient of an agenda is the least I've come across anywhere else.
Yeah. Because the agenda, there can be one, but it moves differently, and there can be, you can recognize it, that it's sort of like tinny, so to speak. It doesn't have the same timbre as something else, so you can tell what's not is having an opinion, and what is overriding it. Yeah, it's not berating it or attacking it or anything. It just overrides it for that hour or so. Now the opinions of the head can have us a lot to say during the day, but it really doesn't move much things into activity. So it just yaps as if I used to drive you crazy. Don't forget that. Yes. I'm gonna be able to soon.
That's all the mental state has left is
Well,
a memory of a
past
time
threats.
when.
That's right, past threats. They used to work.
Yes, yeah.
They gotta work.
So,
Well, you don't underestimate its stubbornness because it's mechanical. It sounds like it's the way we take it is it sounds like us, but it's not us. It's mechanical. It's like if you got a robocall in your voice, but then you listen, you go, wait a minute, like sometimes on YouTube there'd be a video, and it doesn't come from here because the English is weird. They have a statement, some weird. It should have been said, snowing. There was a large amount of precipitation that appeared to snow or whatever.
The translation doesn't quite come through.
It's just weird. So you can hear like the roboticness of things. Yeah, it's mechanical.
Yeah, two of my favorite metaphors from you on what the experience is like to get freedom from the mental state. One is seeing it as advertisements, that what you took to be you, suddenly there's a little bit of space to go, oh, this mental chatter isn't necessarily me, it's trying to convince me of something.
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
From the level of, one, it's trying to convince me to act, go out and drink, go out and, go tell that motherfucker,
Yes.
Give him a piece of my mind. And then more subtly, trying to convince you that you are a long-lasting individual, separate entity.
Well, yeah. But see, for a period of time in its heyday, when it's successful, you started from its
Yes.
assumption.
Yeah.
So
The
it was
ad was
all
a seed.
gravy after that.
Yeah.
It was finding new weird waves to riff, because it doesn't have an infinite amount of imagination, but it just will. It's sort of like that thing, we were gonna stop when someone stopped us. If no one stops it, it just goes off.
Yeah.
But then it really ends up biting chasing its own tail, and sooner or later you're gonna see something, I hope.
Yeah.
But yeah. Now, see, we've already, we're usually buying the product line. We already brought the product, so to speak. We've taken ourselves to be that. There's no me that did it. There's a taking ourselves to be that presents an idea of being a me that did it. So, but yeah, so when it shifts and you're now, you're very sure when the vacuum salesman is talking to you that you don't have any rugs.
Yeah.
So you see it differently. It's little, it falls apart much quicker, and it's like the emperor with no clothes. You recognize it.
Yeah, and that's a loss of interest, which we'll get to. I want to start because I've been told people stop listening to stuff pretty quick if they don't really understand. So I want to sort of start at what I think is the most important and valuable about the Paul Hedderman take, the message take on non-duality. So if someone stumbles upon the idea of non-duality and they start searching, in the modern context, it's going to mostly be through YouTube. The one thing that I think you present that other people don't, that is by far the most valuable, is everyone else will describe what non-duality is, and it can become an object. Right?
Oh, yeah.
It can, and it's sort of, even now, it's become like an industry, right? You can put. I like to say that, like maybe New Age was sort of the cutting edge. It was sort of punk rock in maybe the 80s or 90s.
Yeah.
And then the new cutting edge from that became like non-duality. Non-duality is the like newest punk rock, the newest cutting edge. But even that is becoming commercialized in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just sort of this never-ending cycle. I talk with Mike Z about this a lot. And so you're never going to be able to settle on any one phrase.
Books. She's got her, let's say, her finger on the pulse more than I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it always happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and so what I wanted to try was to see. So I know, like, especially with the Zooms, we were talking about something has to fuel sort of the fire for the message to get going, right?
Yeah, well, at first with the Zoom, but now it doesn't seem to.
It sort of just comes.
Yeah,
right.
Now it sort of does, but at first it needed to sort of recognize, I guess, the mechanism, and then
The new frame.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're looking into a screen, because it's an alive thing, and it's like
The message is
it's like
alive.
to me, the Zoom can be sort of like an insulating quality where two live wires you want to connect. There's no two, obviously, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
imagery, which is a spark or a resonance or an aha, I would think would be more insulated in the Zoom. But then Zoom, you can have more of a repetition because going to the meeting is easier. So people get into the habit of going every week so they can hear the message a few times, and I feel the repetition helps.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think there needs to be repetition with the Zoom more than it does with live.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I know I've noticed if the message is a medicine, the dose of a live meeting lasts longer in the Zoom. And if I go a month or so and I haven't been able to, I normally call in to the Zooms or just sort of I'll have your voice in my ear. I'll watch YouTubes. I'll 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 notice I need a little dose of it because it's there. It's alive. I've been coming for almost 4 years.
Yeah,
Which is crazy to think. I don't even recognize my life before the message. But yeah, there's something to. I'll know there'll be this unspoken thing inside of me of like I need to revisit the message.
Well, yeah, that's sort of like in recovery. After a while, you would know that if I go to 3 meetings a week, a certain quality is stable, and if I drop to 1 or 2, I get a little bit of an edge in my how I react to the day. So you just, if you have the opportunity, just go to 3 or 4 meetings, and then it takes that edge away. So you get to know the dose, let's say, because you already have the condition isn't intensive anymore. There's been an opening, whatever, so you don't need as much larger dose or more extreme whack. Yeah. Because the changes or whatever, the possibilities have been entertained, and it's a moving force. Yeah, it's not like it's inert and you've got to trigger it. It's moving, so you just need a little when you need it.
Yeah, and so there's a quality of so when I heard about the ideas of non-duality, kind of always way back, Alan Watts, about 10 years of that and this and that, and then I started listening to some, I'll throw names out there, I know you don't like names, but Muji, Adyashanti, Rupert Spira, and it was very alive for me, and I was almost like obsessive for about 6 months, and then I stumbled upon your message, and talking about the non-duality being sort of like the cutting edge punk rock. For Nick's personal little story, Paul Hedderman's message was the most cutting edge because it pointed to, as amazing and freeing as those moments will be when non-duality is described, it's going to be claimed.
Yes, for sure.
It's going to be objectified. And even though it's mentioned by other teachers out there, you hammer it home in every single message, in every single presentation. And if it's not hammered home, there will be this duality of, I get it, I'm free, based on circumstances and the situation of listening to that or going to a satsang, and then instantly, like you've talked about, going to a silent meditation retreat or whatever, within 30 minutes, the head's going to start right back up and claim those experiences of non-duality, of no self. Right?
Yeah. And the thing is, it's looking, it shops for it as an experience, which it's not an experience.
Yeah.
It influences experiences because the biggest experience of an experience is the experiencer.
Yeah.
That is an experience in and of itself. We don't think so. We think we're the one that's having the experiences, but we're really the biggest experience because we seem to be coupled with every experience. So the experiencer wants what it thinks would be peace, which would be an experience, a stabilized experience of peace.
Yeah.
And so it gets frustrated and confused when other stuff comes up that it feels like had to be disqualified because they were in those minutes of peak feeling, that they show up and they're really the cause of the obscuring, right? Or for that feeling or that state to change, but it isn't, it's them. It's the experiencer. Yeah. So I found for me going to talks, I felt something wasn't kosher completely, satsangs. So, and I felt it got verified by reading some stuff from Ramana, because I would recognize, because a lot of different people wrote about his teachings, but they would always have a couple of points that would be emphasized in every one of the writings, like as the problem or the greatest mystery. So I figured that seems to have an emphasis, almost like highlighted. So, and then it would be presented, hey, this is what's happening. There's a presupposing of something as being something else, and then wanting to get salvation for itself, so to speak. Yeah. So, and it's a mental activity, obviously. And if that's the case, your spiritual practices are reinforcing that non-existent thing. How can they destroy it? And basically, he was saying that's the case. It wasn't saying if that's the case. He was saying that's the case. That's why nothing works. And then he said the only viable thing would be based on your condition, which would be surrender or self-inquiry. Yes, so surrender and just admit you're not managerial quality, and open up to a larger possibility, call it a higher power, whatever. And thy will is done type thing. And if you, or see the origin of the seeming misery, see where it's coming from, because you'll recognize there's something already there where it seems to come from, so you're there. And so that would be self-inquiry. He didn't really emphasize anything else. First he emphasized silence, seemingly, because but he realized, hey, that's not getting through the people. I've got a seat assignment here.
They're already so noisy within the mind.
And so here, self-inquiry. And don't do it like a practice or religion, because it's the self-inquiry isn't the point. The point is to drop into that which already is available, and when you've dropped in, you don't need to ask, well, who's dropped in? That's when you just rest. Or you take it as far as you can go, and then you put the ball down and something else picks it up. It's not like you're gonna be the hero of the journey. There's a recognizing that there is no hero of the journey, and there's no actual journey. Being ourselves reality, that fact negates all the possibilities of arriving. So when you arrive, it usually tells you in one way or the other, hey, it's always actually been this way. So what did that just do? It just negated your whole story of arriving, because your whole story of arriving somewhere is that you're somewhere else, obviously. How are you going to arrive in LA if you're in LA? You can't have that experience. You're in it. You've already arrived, so to speak. If you see, that's the way we think. Wherever we are, we must have arrived, or we must, and therefore we may be able to go, or have to go, or we're gonna go. That's duality. See, when you are what you are, there's no arrival and departing. So it negates the whole story of, oh, I was there, now I've done something, and I've spaced out and I'm gone. That's the mental, with the smelling salts and fainting, all the time. But in fact, nothing happened. You are that. And that's that, really. And it doesn't matter how much relevance being not that is presented here, because this is in a form, a dreaming or an appearance. It doesn't have a reality of its own. It's given reality through our dreaming it. Seemingly. So
one of the
it's
biggest
going to hit you sooner or later.
Ingredients in that, I think, is time.
Well, it is for sure.
We take time as a constant, and seeing, like you're saying, the idea of going on a journey to find peace means that you're not already at peace.
Well, of course, yes.
You're going on a journey to find stillness and silence means that you must be moving, or you've already taken it to be that time is a given. And I think if I'm understanding the message right, it's you've only ever been here.
Yes, of course. Yeah, nothing. It's not a debatable point. That's the presentation of non-duality. So it's not. There's not much dwelling on the fact that you're reality. There's dwelling on the assumption that you're not, because here that's the relevant direction. You already are what you're looking for. So maybe the looking for it is the problem, is the dilemma. Yeah. So it just changes how the attention is directed. So it's a message, and a lot of messages have a direction, yeah, and they're pointing somewhere. In this case, the message is truly pointless because you're there. Yeah. So we want to look at what we're not.
Yeah.
Because that's the last place we look. We're looking everywhere else as what we're not, but let's look for what we're not, or for the activity that's implying this image, this sense of being Paul, because it seems to be outdrawing that which has its gun out at all times, which is timelessness. So in time, because this is an addiction in a way, we're addicted to experience and time and this and that. And obviously, if anyone's had been under an addiction, a lot of they're like blinders. I mean, you've got a fucking very focused, very myopic view going on, and you're thinking that's all there is. Yeah, but it isn't. It's manufactured. So if there's an addiction to time, then and there's an addiction to experience, then being would have to be something I'd arrive at and experience. Yeah. It can't be now. I mean, because this is now, and this is, I want to get out of this. So don't tell me that you're complete. This is, you're perfect. No, that doesn't fly. People, they try to affirm that, but it's reinforcing the denial that's going on. So no, you see the addiction. So if the addiction is of time, its only way out is through time. And if it's addiction with this experience, the freedom is going to be an experience, but it isn't. Yeah. Just like, you buy a new car, a Toyota, then you see the model all over the place. This is the same thing. Your mind gets like plugged in a certain way, and that's the way it sees everything. So that's what we're questioning, because most people still, they have a belief that this is an experience. Non-duality is an experience you can have, just like a lot of other experiences, when it's not. It's a fact. It's about the basis of this whole event. Yeah, it's not about an experience in it. Yeah, so you don't need to convince what you're not of that, because it's incapable of getting it. Yeah, you just see that you become convinced you're not that. And so the value and what's being withheld to get this understanding to fit your way of seeing things through time and experience is seen as completely invalid. You just say fucking, you lose interest in it, and there's the meaning that was put in it, which is a huge amount of meaning, gets withdrawn. Yeah, and so now you are what you're looking for. And in not only that, it stops the looking for it.
That's what's
because
critical.
This is, people hear it. I am what I'm looking for. But there's still so much fucking looking. Yeah, it's just like the same, we've been using the story about the guy with the huge bag on his head, super heavy, and his only hope for relief is when he reaches his destination, which is pretty far away, and he's walking. So he's now hunkered down into a very small possibility. Yeah, I can't wait to get to Madras, then I'll be relieved of this giant bag. And someone sees him and goes, "Hey, bro, where you going?" And the guy goes, "Madras." And of course, he's got a huge story. It's a long trip, I don't know, but someone has to do, there's a whole lot of investment in it now. And then the guy goes, "Well, there's a train station right around the block," which the guy was not aware of. So this is what a message can do.
Yeah. There's
It's
another
not
way.
saying we built a new we're gonna build a station and
Yeah.
there'll be a train come. No, it already
available.
is. You're just telling him something that's already so. He's just not aware of it, and it would maybe be helpful. So, all right. And there's a train to Madras every hour on the hour. What? So the guy, and so you think, all right, I've done my job as a good Samaritan. You walk away. Then you're walking by the train, and there he is inside with the bag on his fucking head. And you're like, fuck. So, all right, I gotta follow the person, get in the train. So when he gets in the train, hey, bro, you can take it off the head. The train is taking you and it to Madras. It's not the train is taking you with it. No, you and it. Yeah. So this is what satsang is.
Yeah, and that's I think that story captures the Paul Hedderman message, because a lot of non-dual teaching stops at leaving them on the train. Hey, we've got an easier, lighter path, which is sitting on the train, but they don't check to see that they're still carrying the bag.
That's right.
and
that's the whole point.
This message is there's the easiest, lightest way, which is
exactly.
You can. I love the metaphor that you use of put your life in the hands of a higher power, and then it will carry you.
Yes, exactly, like the train.
Yeah.
So this is the point. And so what people need to be reminded is this act of claiming, because it's now the claiming is that bag. Yeah. And I felt it was under emphasized where I went to hear satsangs, and so something moved me to show up at places and get it invited, and I've never left this point, because I don't feel, if you don't see this, you're gonna be looking from it. Yeah, and that's the blindness to your own nature. So I feel, and that feeling hasn't changed in years now. I'm open to it. I would love just say, all right, that's done. Let's just, we're an empty space. Let's think about how we could think about a void as something that's filled with something.
Yeah.
No, that's, it's not there yet.
Trying to be there to experience your own absence.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. So might as well get to the point, which is, the point is negation in a way. You are the affirmation. It doesn't need to be affirmed. You are the affirmation. What the affirmation is doing is affirming an assumption or a misunderstanding or a seemingly so. It's affirming that all day.
Yeah.
The affirmation is being used to affirm something. Now, maybe we lose interest in that something, and then the affirmation will be just an affirming. Yeah.
And it's open and available to.
Well, yeah, because it's affirming right now as it is.
Yes.
Yeah, and therefore, wow, it changes all the little minute things that may not be remembered in like a travel log, but are really the experiential points. Yeah. Chills you out.
Yeah, I was thinking of a lot of things, but so like I said, I've been coming to the talks for about 4 years. I've introduced a lot of people to it. I brought, back before COVID, I brought a lot of people to talks. I've introduced people to the Zooms and YouTubes, and everyone has a similar take. Most people in my life aren't like, I work in construction. They're not going to silent retreats and doing a lot of study. They come in sort of fresh, which is cool to me. I think they're bypassing so much bullshit.
Yeah, it could be, yeah.
Right, by coming straight to the message in this way. And I shared this with you. My best friend, my really good buddy, I brought him to a talk. He heard the word non-duality for the first time, and that night I brought him to a talk in the city, in San Francisco. And so he's been following you on YouTube for a couple of years now, and when I asked him about the first time he came to the talk, he goes, as happens a lot with you, everything went over my head. I don't know what the hell he was talking about. But the thing that stuck with me was his laugh.
Yeah. It's probably the best thing I say. I wish could happen on cue. It would increase my attractability. But unfortunately, it's a it's a surprise to the Jack in the Box. The Jack in the Box is surprised by the laughing.
There's something about like you can argue a point all day, and it's so easily caught by the mental state, but then there's like proving something by your actions. And this is how my friend explained it. He goes, I didn't know what he was arguing or what point he was trying to get across, but I saw someone that was free.
Yeah, sure.
Right? I saw someone that there was a certain confidence without the cockiness in the laugh. And he goes, and slowly over time, so he also listens to Sam Harris and a couple of other speakers in the non-dual world, and he goes, I have to listen to about 20 hours of Sam Harris to get 2 minutes of what Paul's talking about.
Yeah, you know.
It seems like a much more efficient, use
Oh,
of your
yeah.
time to come
But this
in.
is we're a minor roaster.
Yeah.
Very very. It's not hitting a universal palate.
Independent bakery.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole point is just something moves you and you find yourself in seat assignments. Yeah, if you weren't supposed to be there, you wouldn't have. So you show up, and you don't need to, have your own conditions for showing up. You just show up, and that's basically all the condition you need to do. Yeah.
And then it's out of your hands.
Yeah, completely. And I don't have much of a vile, hate-filled edge on it. I'm not really looking to get much out of people from the talks. I've got a plan. We're gonna build a cult. No. It just felt like it's like someone, let's say, who can sing, who wants to sing, but he doesn't sing that well. So he's got to have his little, it's maybe in the shower, but for me, it's sort of at the talks. I get to, my head likes to run, like free range. And in the day-to-day living, when you're living like a myopic view, that's what you're getting, an interpretation of the day through a myopic view. You need an outlet somewhere just to remind you that you're not of this place and you're of the space, so to speak. Because you can see how it works. Just like the repetition of satsang can be helpful. The repetition of all these beliefs and assumptions that are just cosigned, and not overtly, some are, but mostly covertly. We're just nodding our consent to a lot of, like that guy used to use the term with media, manufacturing consent. The head is busily manufacturing consent constantly. And if you're not interested in it, there's nothing wrong with that or right with that. I mean, wouldn't you have loved that, a picnic could make your fucking year? But for some people it doesn't. You don't, some people are they have more propulsion in there. They need to find something a little more potent than just, I have the good life. That doesn't fit them well. So this is a way of finding you are what you're looking for and being released from a lot of that seeking and that urge that drives us. You can actually have the ability to enjoy peace of mind reestablished, and stuff like that. And be able to have the ability to fit yourself around circumstances instead of constantly trying to fit them around you. All this stuff. So
I wanted to just speak a little bit to my friends or listeners that are early on interacting with the talks. Some of the words they'll use is like, it's very intimidating, Like it seems like this impossible task and journey to end up right here where you are, right? And my advice usually to them, I'd like to hear what your advice would be, is there's no program. There's like you'll joke sometimes. There's no belts. It's not a belt system. There's not a level 1, level 2, level 3. And the mind that's used to living in time and in process and all that wants to go, well, what's the first step? What's the second step? And what I'll normally say is just keep showing up and keep listening. And one of my favorite ways that you'll talk about it is you're not doing it, it's doing it to you. You're not you're not doing the process, you're being processed sort of by this in a way. And it's true humility, because you have nothing to do with it. You take yourself to be, as Paul, as Nick, as Amelia, you have nothing to do with it. And it takes the selfing, the thinking mind a while to accept that.
Well, the thing is, when people put out, they hear that forecast being broadcast, that's not of them, and it's based on a large misunderstanding, because the large misunderstanding is you believe you're somewhere and therefore must be moved or moved to somewhere else. This isn't about that. This is about questioning that triangulation we live as if it's so. It's not always questioning, let's say, the direction of the GPS. It's the assumption of the GPS that you are somewhere and you're going to go somewhere else. And we become addicted to this GPS idea, this faith. We have faith, and to me a GPS is just mimicking the faith we have in the head. And so it assumes we're here, and therefore it's going to take a whole lot of work to get over there as here. But we're not here. We're not this here. This here is mental. It's made up. It's an interpretation. Right here and now at all times is what we're looking for. So the immediacy of it will flash and sooner or later in their lives. And then you'll get a taste of something that's not of time and is not of geographical position and is not of requirement or controlled traits and behaviors. It just is. It is before anything wants to be it. It is. I find it very disarming, to tell you the truth. Completely disarming. And the Urban Renewal Project, which was all that drive, I know I'm somewhere and I shouldn't be there, and I want to have the qualities of that somewhere else, but it seems really far. I'm interested somewhat, but I'm not a fucking, extreme athlete in a spiritual realm. And so basically, I'm just going to have to say, hey, it's just going to be the way it is, but the way it is ain't the way it is. It's just an interpretation in the way it is. Not of the way it is. It's an interpretation that's still in the way it is. And to me, it's very disarming.
One of the I love the disarming, and one of the things I'll say all the time and remind myself is the loss of interest.
For sure.
I love the ideas you'll say of people want freedom, but the only actual freedom is freedom from needing to be free.
For sure. It's the need,
a loss of interest.
What has the need to be liberated isn't you, so you're liberated from that. Just like that which believes for it to have liberation has got to go through a whole lot of shit and shit and shit and shit. You're freed from that idea of liberation. So basically, just the invitation of non-duality and being around its neighborhood, which is everywhere, so you can't be far, is going to influence all these drives and these momentums and these preoccupations we're not privy to. We're not on it. We don't see it. We're constantly a ball of agitation and activity. We're pictured as a physical thing, but we're not. The physical thing is a minor player in what's going on. Yeah, it's more a vehicle, and it's an image to represent being a doer and a thinker and a feeler, but it's the doing and thinking and feeling and shit. This is really, and it's, again, it's the doing, thinking, feeling, and then having that translate into a doer, a thinker, and a feeler is just a sloppy fucking interpretation. It's sort of like trying to herd cats, you know, and it just doesn't work. So basically, you can see something. That's all. You start seeing an interpretation, which you used to take as living. Yeah, you remember when you were a kid, you running around like crazy, and then one day you ran into a room and it was accompanied by thought, and then everything was accompanied by thought for a long while, and then the thoughts became the dominant thing, then the room, and the activities I was doing was the thoughts about the activities, and the thinker of all the thoughts about the activity. Yep, and it became a preoccupation, and it's sort of like watch when young people now, they're looking on a phone, they're in a beautiful park, the cherry trees are blossoming, there's dogwoods, and all they're doing is looking at their image.
Yeah.
So basically, all that attention and interest that could have been just like, consorting with all this beauty that was being demonstrated is just fixated on an image of an image. It's sort of like a vertical pool of Narcissus constantly looking at things to see an image of himself. It's just...
It makes me think, when the message really landed, the feeling was like being a kid again.
Yeah, you can laugh, everything's live. Yeah, you feel alive, like right now. There's a lot of liveness here.
Yeah.
And you feel, you're on the beat. You're not observing the beat,
Yeah.
and you're not missing the beat. You're on the beat. You're totally, like when you're clapping, it's at the right time.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
You're on the wave.
You're on it. You're on it, and basically you've always been on it. It's not like a heroic thing. It takes a lot of effort and thought. I'm staying, no. Really what takes a lot of effort and thought is believing you're not on it.
Yes.
That takes a whole lot of effort and thought and a lot of reinforcement and a lot of fucking insinuating and implying and suggesting and
It's so funny when people start maybe meditating or Eckhart Tolle type stuff, the power of now. They'll go, I feel so great when I'm present, but it feels like so much work to be present. It's so funny because that which is telling the story that it takes work to be present is actually what is, as you're saying, working so hard all the time to take us out of the moment.
Well, yes, because it's not a product. It appears in a moment. It's not a product of the moment.
Yeah.
It's a product of time, past and future.
Yeah, and I think
it's got to be remembered.
The only teacher I've heard say and emphasize, you can't be out of a moment. Trying to get into the moment is
insane. It implies once again a misunderstanding, or let's say a false belief. That you could be out of a moment. You're giving like superpowers to something that can't fly. You are, really. And then of course it's going to seem almost impossible to ever escape its clutches. Because you've given it giant talons and fucking these powers of a all-compressing bear, but it's not true. Yeah. And obviously you can't be out of a moment. It's impossible. Yeah, you can think you're out of the moment, but that's the moment. Yeah, you can think you're in way in another place on the planet and in another time, but it's now. All that's happening now. There's no escaping it. Yeah, that's the hope. It's so funny. It's not like, an incredible 30 stanza physics fucking equation. It's just simple. Yeah. See the selfing, which is a mental activity that's always implying there's a you, There was a you, there's gonna be a you, therefore you are that you now. It's constantly, it has to constantly work at picturing you somewhere at some time because you're not there, literally.
Mhm.
So it has to constantly work. What's so doesn't have to say much. Yeah, it just is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you are speaks louder than what that head says. Truly.
Yeah.
You just need to have a little. Uh, it's like borrowing. You don't have to even to buy them. At satsang, you just borrow a pair of glasses, and then you see things anew.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the misunderstandings are seen as just that, things are going to crumble, and other buildings are going to take their place. You don't have to be. You're not the manager of it, nor are you the contract worker. You're just going to observe it. You're going to see things will change. And what will resonate is, blue is blue and red is red. You'll have an incredible sense of authority without having to have an authority. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll just ring true.
Yeah.
And yeah, why would it, to me, there is a last bell. There is a last answer. There is an end to stuff. There is. Yeah, I don't call it death. Yeah, I call it awakeness, really, and we're already awake. But when it becomes, when you, as this event, become awake to being awake, not it being awake, but being awake. Yeah, it's not Paul has awakened; it's being awake.
Yeah.
So now, Paul had, in its limited little ability to comprehend and cognize, is aware of something. Yeah, that's way bigger than it, because there isn't anyone. This is just like a cloud passing through the sky. It's realized the sky finally, instead of thinking the sky is just a vehicle for cloudness. No, it realizes a sky, and then there's this appearance. Yeah, so it it's like a forced humility. It realizes that a lot has gone on with me having nothing to do with it. Yeah, and so, and awakeness is the same. I don't believe anyone becomes awake. I don't. I think, how could you become what you already are? It'd be very hard to do.
Yeah.
So when you finally arrive, it tells you you've never left. So what do you want to believe? That thing that says you arrived, or the fact that you've never left?
Yeah, I've had a lot of experiences. I listened to a few other interviews you did between yesterday and today, and then obviously I've heard people ask you in Zooms a lot, and I love when people so earnestly will say, "Okay, I understand all of this, but how can I get it?" Right? And you always say you can't get it, and the flabbergasted look on their face. Because I know in that time, I believe you're speaking to the cloud, saying, "Cloud, you'll never be the sky."
Yeah, you can't get it.
You can't get it.
Because you're trying to get it as a cloud.
Yeah.
You're not, see, because there would be no getting it as the sky.
Yeah.
So if there's a wanting to get it, it's coming from a cloud point of view.
Yeah.
And let's just question if you are that cloud point of view. And then that getting that has so much meaning and drive will lose all importance, because you'll realize you're the sky. Yeah. So there's no, and you'll see it's reverse engineering. You'll see exactly why things were going the way they went. Was this stubborn identification as the cloud at all costs?
Yeah.
Was actually what was obscuring, quote unquote, the cloud. So if the cloud is obscuring the cloud, how is it going to get everything out of the way? If it's the fucking way, the obstacle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you lose interest in it. It continues.
One of my favorite ways, a good little check-in to see if I'm seeing from the cloud or from the sky, and I'll say this with some of my good friends that all know the message. is also, they'll say something about the latest problem in their life, or I'll talk about the latest problem in my life, and then we'll go, well, you're fucked. Right? Which
Yeah.
is another way of, you're never going to get it. And how that hits me most of the time will be a sense of freedom and lightning and traveling a lot lighter. Oh yeah, the cloud is fucked.
Yeah.
It won't solve this problem.
No.
Yeah, Nick is fucked. The quote self, the ego is fucked. And if there's heaviness around that, it kind of instantly shows me, it shows what I am. Oh, you're identified as this.
Well, you're not identified.
Yeah, there's an identification of this.
Yeah.
And I heard a definition the other day, and maybe I'm late to the party on this one, but to identify means to make yourself the same as. So it's similar to identical, right? The
Yeah.
same as.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I go, oh, that's what we are doing when we quote identify. When there's an identification, there's a belief you are identical to this fear of being
Yes,
fucked. Or this
exactly.
fear.
Or you could say, this, what they used to say, we're made in the image of God. So we're made in the image of the mental God.
Yeah.
So its image of us,
Yeah.
we're identified as.
Again, I've noticed in a couple of interviews people done with you, they'll be like, man, I'm so down with all of this. So would you say that it's God that's doing, the seeing, or is it, who's the seer? They still want to pin it.
Yeah,
on
for
something.
sure.
And the stubbornness of wanting to pin it seems to never go
Well,
away.
well, that's the subject-objectness.
Yeah.
That's duality.
Yeah.
See, we're not in duality. We're the presenter of duality. This composite thing going on. This whatever. It's not a thing, obviously, but this is the movement that carries and offers and projects duality.
Yeah.
So we're not that. See that? It doesn't mean it's not going to appear that way. It is going to keep appearing that way. But, to be free of the glove, you don't need to be free of the glove. You just know you're the hand.
Yeah. And the glove can be there. Seem to
and
be
how
there.
you arrive at knowing you're the hand is you realize you're not the glove. You don't arrive at knowing that you're the hand through the glove. You realize you're the hand by realizing you're not the glove. That's basically the direction we're trying to share at. Yes. Yeah, because a lot of people want to know the hand from the glove, which is all you're gonna do is know more glove, so to speak. You're only gonna be able to see the hand as a component of the glove.
Yeah.
But if you see you're not the glove, then you find out you're the hand.
Yeah, in that right there, I think one of the unique qualities of the
Check
Zen.
out this beautiful bird. It's a mockingbird. It's giving us a show right here.
Oh my God.
See it?
Yeah.
It's gonna sing sooner or later. Go up to its little microphone on the tree over there. Start going off. Yeah, these start come every year. They're cool. Right.
Yeah, one of the.
There he goes.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Practicing a little.
One of my favorite ways to summarize what the message has done in my life is made me available
Yes.
to this.
Yeah.
The mockingbird.
Yeah.
It's like a psychedelic state, but it's more. It's like even more real and present.
Yeah.
It's HD, all 5 and 6 senses.
Yeah.
Here and now.
Yeah. It's an upgrade for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. It's an upgrade. Yeah. You were sent to the Apple factory and they fucking upgraded you. You're refurbished
Yeah.
iPaul 11. Takes better pictures,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Audio's good.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I think that's a pretty good place to end.
All right, good, bro. Let's see what time it is here.
I'll just do a little bit of go to zenbitchslap.com. and check out Paul and his talks. Check him out on YouTube. And again, I want to emphasize, seeing you live is as good as it gets. So you're going to
Well, remember, that may not be always available.